All right, Coach, I appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
I guess one of the first things is, the Bigger Than Ball Foundation was really set up to have coaches be refreshed and re-energized to the impact that they have beyond the game. As you well know, I don't have to talk to you about all the impact that you can have.
No doubt.
I'd just like to appreciate the opportunity first to sit down with you, but while we do have you, can you share your wisdom, share your experience and the years that you've been in coaching, and share some of those bigger than ball type ideas that some of our young coaches can take with them?
Well, one of the greatest commercials of all time was by the NCAA that, said that, the student athletes in college, the 99% of them, or however the commercial went, are going to be, pros in something besides the sport that they're actually playing. And, I think in today's culture, with so much media and social media, that we put the great athletes and the great teams up on a pedestal, and maybe to a point to where I think a lot of people get the wrong message. Coaches like you and I and a lot of people didn't get into it necessarily for that. No, doesn't mean that winning's not important. Doesn't mean that we don't try, and that's what it's all about. But I don't believe over 100 years ago, when he started intercollegiate athletics or athletics in high schools and all over this great country, that it was to build giant stadiums, to build giant statues of coaches and players. I think it was to show them that there's a different education, that it's a well-rounded education. Besides the math and English and history and the things that you can learn in the classroom, there's things that you can learn on the sports field or on the sports courts that are going to help you in life. Because let's face it, most of us aren't going to be in the NBA or the NFL or the major leagues. But most of us are going to be fathers and mothers and run businesses and churches and are going to come in contact with a lot of different people. And I think athletics, that's really what it's all about. It's about being part of a team. It's about learning the benefit of hard work and practice and those types of things. And I think as you get older, those things become more important to you. And again, a lot of people can sit on the other side and act as if, well, hey, you don't care about winning. No, you should see us after a loss. No, we care so much about winning, but we also realize that the people that we come in contact every single day, that wins or losses, those things are going to go away. The people are going to forget those. They may not forget the national championship necessarily, especially your fans, but across the country they will. And when you start to think about that way, I mean, most people can't tell you who won the national championship in any sport 2-3 years ago, unless you're that fan of that team. And so when you start to think about it, I think in that realm, it kind of puts it in perspective that it's only in that moment that it's that important. After that, it's going to be the lessons that I learned from the courts, from the fields, that I think it makes athletics so important that it's bigger than ball.
Sure. Well, since you've been in the game for a little bit, you got some experience. What's different now? Do you ever think about legacy as far as how you will be remembered, and and also on a side deal after that, how important is it for you to kind of reset your batteries, recharge, throughout the process? Because being in the SEC, that's a high pressure job. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't remove the idea that there's not pressure to win.
Sure.
And so speak on those topics again.
Well, I think sometimes when you talk about legacy and things like that, I kind of cringe a little bit because, it's not about me. It's about my players, it's about my team, it's about my school. So I think sometimes I cringe. But if you say, hey, when you retire, down the road, what would you want somebody to think? Certainly, I think all of us, if we're really good at what we do, have a little bit of ego. And I'd like the people to think that I coached the game well and that we won games and we were successful. But the thing I think that the substance that I think all coaches hope is that impacted kids, that they were better off, because they went through your program or played on your team, that you taught them lessons that people didn't teach them before. Let's face it, by the time they get to me, they've had a lot of coaches. You know, a lot of travel ball coaches and little league coaches and high school coaches and all different kinds of sports. You know, your hope is that you impacted that kid, that, you know, when he, gets married and has children, that he can reflect back on his times. And yes, you hope that there were good times and you won some championships. But more importantly, that he looks back and said, you know, I learned these lessons and I'm passing them on to my kid, or I'm passing them on to my, you know, the little league team that I coach. And, you know, to me, you know, that's what I think most coaches would hope, and at least that's what I hope, you know, they think about me when I leave the game. The second part?
The second part is about recharging your batteries. You know, how important is it for you to step back and remember why you started coaching?
Oh, no doubt. And then when you talk about, you know, recharging the battery, yeah, everybody needs that. You know, I think there's this this premise out there that you got to outwork people. You know, there's a lot of excellent coaches out there, and there's a lot of people that are working really hard. And you know, I think sometimes that we get into that, you know, every single day grind that we forget. And I think it's important. It's important to be able to, you know, step away and realize what's really important. My wife and my family will tell you I'm not great at it. I'm not great, during the season, and I'm still working on that. You know, I've been coaching for nearly 30 years, and to try to leave, the baseball at the office and be able to come home and be a father or a husband. But, you know, one of the things that I love, I have 5 children, and so to go watch them play, I don't get to see them play a lot, especially in the springtime, but to be able to go watch them, you know, play and just be a dad. You know, to be able to be there on a Friday night at a football game or a Tuesday night at a basketball game, and sit in the stands and root for your kid, and, you know, hope for his successes or her successes. And so I think that's important for all of us. I think it's important to have that, you know, that quality time with your family. You know, the holidays, being a baseball coach, I'm fortunate that, you know, the best time, the slowest time of the year for us is this time of the year, you know, from Thanksgiving to about New Year's. And so what a great thing for baseball coaches is usually this is the slow time, and what a great time to kind of be able to get away from the office and, you know, during the Christmas season, spend some time with your family.